He possesses something far greater. Reddit cheating stories. A heart-wrenching tale of betrayal. Your support is crucial. With a staggering 90% of our viewers still not subscribed, we urgently need your support to continue crafting captivating content that resonates deeply. We urge you to subscribe and activate the notification bell. Share your location with us. Drop your city in the comments below and let the connection begin. Never did I imagine that one solitary email could unravel the very core of my marriage. Sitting across from my best friend, Vanessa, at our favorite cafe, I felt a weight in the air that overshadowed our rare lunch date. The sun poured its golden rays through the window, illuminating the stillness of our untouched coffees, while the distant murmur of other customers faded into an almost haunting silence. Yet my thoughts drifted, ensnared in a perilous web of what-ifs and maybes, each one more haunting than the last. How long has it been since we last truly connected? Vanessa inquired, her fingers nervously brushing a strand of dark hair behind her ear, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. I let out a heavy sigh, my fingers absently swirling the drink as a storm of thoughts brewed within me. It seems like an eternity. Amid the relentless demands of grad school, the weight of household responsibilities, and the chaos of Zach's unpredictable work schedule, I find myself gasping for a moment of respite. Her smile held a weight of understanding, a silent acknowledgement that sent a shiver down my spine. Are you really almost finished, though? It was a near confession, I conceded. With spring break looming just a week away, I find myself in a whirlwind of emotions after finally submitting my final thesis. Say goodbye to the torment of restless nights spent worrying over assignments. I ought to be reveling in this moment. Is it meant to be? Vanessa raised an eyebrow, a flicker of intrigue crossing her face. Why do you seem so indifferent? I paused, torn between the urge to speak and the weight of silence pressing down on me. At last, I laid bare my truth. Because everything has lost its thrill. I return home, prepare dinner, and sink into the solitude of old show reruns, all the while anxiously anticipating Zach's return from work, often finding myself already tucked in bed by the time he arrives. While my classmates venture out, explore the world, and create unforgettable memories, I remain ensnared in a web of stagnation, longing for the freedom to break free. Vanessa's gaze pierced through me, heavy with unspoken words. Amelia, you are bound by the vows of marriage. You have a husband who adores you, yet shadows of uncertainty loom over the future that lies ahead. Some would go to unimaginable lengths for that. I struggled to maintain a smile. I understand. And I do love Zach, yet a deep ache lingers within me for the exhilarating pulse of life, the flicker of possibility. Her gaze pierced through me, each tap of her fingers against the coffee cup echoing in the charged silence. Is there someone at school who is causing you to feel this way? My silence spoke volumes. Vanessa's eyes widened, a flicker of intrigue igniting within her. She leaned in closer, her voice barely above a breath. Who is he? I bit my lip, my heart racing at the mere thought of uttering his name. Jake. He's a freshman, just 2 years my junior. Yet there's something profoundly distinct about him. Compassionate. Excitement awaits. He truly pays attention when I speak. Her expression shifted into a shadowy veil of uncertainty. Amelia? I understand, I uttered in a rush. I know it's wrong to enjoy the attention, but I haven't crossed any lines, at least not intentionally. It's a profound experience to truly feel acknowledged. Isn't it? Yet, Vanessa insisted Zach would never perceive it in that light. Proceed with caution. Your marriage is not a game of chance. I let out a heavy sigh, my head dipping in reluctant agreement. Deep down, I understood her truth, yet a restless yearning clawed at my insides, demanding something beyond the ordinary. One final escapade before surrendering to the quiet of a settled life. In that moment, as if she could sense the turmoil within me, Vanessa's lips curled into a knowing smirk. Just think about it. If you truly wanted to, you could find a way to make it all come together. I blinked, my heart racing as the world around me seemed to hold its breath. What is happening? She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, thick with intensity. A subtle twist can lead to unexpected consequences. Maybe if Zach understood how distant I felt, he'd realize something needs to change between us, leaving him oblivious to the true threat lurking in the shadows. A deep frown creased my brow. What are you saying? Maybe try talking to him honestly about how you're feeling, she suggested, her eyes sparkling with a dangerous excitement. It feels as though whispers are swirling around, casting shadows over your reputation. A hint of uncertainty, just enough to send a shiver down his spine. That would only raise his suspicions about me, I insisted. Indeed, she declared, when he confronts you, unleash your fury. Instill a deep sense of guilt within him, forever questioning your loyalty. Then, with a heavy heart, express your need for space and reveal that you're heading to Florida to spend some time with your mom. I fixed my gaze on her, my heart racing wildly. What if he dares to call her? Then tell him not to, Vanessa said, her shoulders lifting in a dismissive gesture. Declare your need for space, and if he presses further, let him know that if trust is lacking, perhaps your return shouldn't even be considered. I gulped, my thoughts spiraling in a whirlwind of urgency. The stakes were high, fraught with deceit. However, it might just work, and the thought of resisting was slipping away from me, leaving a haunting uncertainty in its wake. Zach pressed his fingers against his temples, the heavy burden of exhaustion pressing down on him like a relentless storm. His company teetered on the brink of a monumental breakthrough, yet the clock was ticking. If the missing components failed to arrive in time, the entire endeavor would unravel into chaos. Just as he was on the brink of closing his laptop and leaving for the day, a sudden ping from his inbox shattered the silence. A fresh email arrives, stirring anticipation. Subject, concerning your wife. With a furrowed brow, he hesitated before clicking on it. I regret to be the bearer of this news, but Amelia is rumored to have an inappropriate closeness with Professor Miller. I felt it was important for you to be aware of this. A cherished companion. Zach's gaze locked onto the screen, his heart racing with every passing second. Professor Miller? That was utterly incomprehensible. Amelia had not uttered his name in what felt like an eternity. His heart raced as he hovered over the delete button, a storm of uncertainty brewing within him. This was undeniably a twisted game, one that left a chilling sense of disbelief hanging in the air. But then, an unsettling doubt began to seep in. Amelia had grown increasingly distant in recent days. She hardly spoke of school these days, and hadn't she expressed a yearning for something more thrilling? In an instant, his fingers danced across the keyboard, compelled to craft a reply. Who are you really? What evidence can you present? He hit send, a knot tightening in his stomach, fully aware that a response might never come. With a fierce resolve burning within him, he plunged into the depths of the internet, scouring every corner for the elusive name of Professor Miller. Silence echoes in the void, a haunting reminder of what remains unfulfilled. He anxiously scanned the university directory. Silence, a void that echoes with unspoken words. Desperation drove him to broaden his search, scouring LinkedIn, diving into social media, and poring over ancient faculty listings. Silence lingers, heavy and oppressive. His stomach knotted with unease. Was he chasing shadows? By the time Zach arrived home, I was already there, waiting in the silence that hung heavy between us. The air crackled with an intensity that felt almost palpable, a silent tempest gathering strength between us. Where have you been all this time? I demanded, arms crossed tightly against my chest. I reached out to you. He brushed aside the question, gripping my hand tightly as he guided me toward the couch. You have to see this. It's important. There was an unsettling quality in his voice that sent a shiver racing down my spine. As he extended the printed email towards me, a jolt of fear surged through my veins, and my heart felt as though it might cease to beat. I read the words twice, my heart racing, before I slowly lifted my gaze to meet his eyes. Do you really believe I'm being unfaithful to you? My voice trembled with fury, a blend of genuine emotion and practiced delivery. It's not that at all. A random email appears in your inbox, and you choose to trust it over me? I erupted, hurling the paper at him with a fierce intensity. Do you really place your faith in a faceless stranger over the woman who stands by your side? Amelia, I can't bear to look at you right now, I hissed, clutching my purse tightly. I can't say when I'll return. The door crashed shut behind me as I erupted into the night. My hands shook violently as I turned the key in the ignition. That was far too simple. Zach remained blissfully unaware, oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath the surface. And what about tomorrow? Tomorrow, I will board a plane bound for Florida, in the presence of Jake. As I drove toward the airport, a heavy guilt began to claw at my insides, relentless and suffocating. Every aspect was orchestrated with precision, each detail carefully crafted to unfold perfectly. Yet, as the moment of departure loomed closer, a flicker of doubt gripped my heart, holding me back just for an instant. Was I truly about to go through with this? Was I truly about to embark on a journey to Florida to confront Blake? I clenched the steering wheel, forcing the doubt to fade away. This was my moment, my final escapade, before I surrendered completely to the life James and I had forged together. I couldn't just turn my back on my marriage, not for eternity. I found myself yearning for a moment of respite, a chance to escape the chaos and gather my thoughts in solitude. That's what I convinced myself of, at least. My phone vibrated ominously on the passenger seat, drawing my gaze with an unsettling urgency. A message from Blake, filled with unspoken weight and urgency. Blake, hey stunning. All is in place. The anticipation of seeing you is almost unbearable. A surge of anticipation coursed through me as I envisioned the week that lay before me. Sun-soaked beaches, late-night walks, a surge of carefree excitement that ignited emotions I hadn't experienced in years. I hurriedly fired off a response. It's me. I'm on my way. I'll see you soon. But will it be the same? I willed myself to silence the chaos in my mind and concentrate on the path ahead. Everything was already set in motion, the air thick with anticipation. The point of no return had been crossed. Back home, James sat at his desk, his gaze fixed on the same email, its words blurring into an indistinct haze as he wrestled with the weight of their meaning, having read them over a dozen times. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him, an unsettling knot twisting in his gut. Letting it go seemed impossible, as if the very essence of the situation clawed at his conscience, refusing to be ignored. Why did Claire's reaction burn with such intensity if this was merely a false rumor? What had driven her to leave in such haste, denying him the chance to reach out to her mother? His hand trembled as it hovered over the phone, uncertainty gripping him tightly. She had left no room for doubt. If he reached out to her or her mother, the consequences could be dire. She might never return. Yet, an unsettling dissonance lingered in the air. Rather than reaching out to Claire, he hesitated, his finger hovering over the screen as he scrolled through his contacts, finally landing on Tessa's number. In a world spiraling into chaos, she stood as his only beacon of hope, the one who could untangle the web of confusion that surrounded him. James, hey, we need to talk. Moments later, the piercing sound of his phone shattered the silence. Hey, James, Tessa said, her voice a soothing balm amidst the storm. How are you managing through all of this? He released a dry, mirthless laugh, the sound echoing with an unsettling weight. Far from ideal. A nagging sensation claws at me, whispering that something is deeply amiss. Tessa let out a heavy sigh, the weight of unspoken thoughts hanging in the air. Are you referring to the email? That? And the way Claire responded was nothing short of explosive. She erupted with fury. With a heavy heart, she gathered her belongings and walked away, leaving everything behind. And she took every measure to ensure I wouldn't dare check in on her. What compels you to venture so far? Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy. Then Tessa spoke with deliberate caution. Perhaps she simply craved distance, James. The weight of stress has been heavy on both of you. Perhaps, he whispered, uncertainty gnawing at him. Tessa paused, uncertainty gripping him as he prepared to add his words. Listen closely. If you truly seek the truth, there may be a different path to uncover the reality without reaching out to her directly. James's brow furrowed in deep concern. What are you trying to say? Tessa's voice dropped to a whisper, thick with unspoken weight. Maybe there's a way to clarify things without confronting her directly. just to ease your mind. James's stomach nodded with unease. That doesn't sit right. I understand, she whispered, her voice trembling with unspoken weight. But consider this. If she's truly at her mother's, a sense of relief may wash over you. But what if she isn't? James hesitated, silence hanging heavily in the air. He loathed the very thought of betraying his wife's trust by watching her in secret. Yet the doubt gnawed at him, consuming him from within. Just think about it, Tessa whispered, his voice barely above a breath before the line went dead. At the airport, I checked my bags, my heart racing as I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what lay ahead. It was truly unfolding before their eyes. I had convinced myself that this trip was innocuous, merely a fleeting escape, nothing beyond that. Yet, beneath the surface, an undeniable truth lingered within me. In a moment of emotional confusion, I found myself stepping away from my husband's trust, searching for clarity in solitude. I convinced myself it was not betrayal. Not at all. Not yet. The weight of anticipation hangs heavy in the air. Yet, deep down, I understood that if James ever uncovered the truth, there would be no turning back from the abyss that awaited us. As I stood there, heart racing, I dialed my mother's number. Claire, my dear. She welcomed me with a warmth that sent shivers down my spine. How are you holding up? I'm fine, Mom, I replied hastily. Listen, if James calls, can you just say I'm with you? Please, it's important. Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy. Claire, what is happening? Nothing. I deceived you. James and I just had a heated exchange, and I find myself in desperate need of some distance. I couldn't bear the thought of causing him any distress, so I assured him that I would be staying with you for a while. Claire, she whispered, a tremor in her voice, I can't shake this feeling. If you require distance, that's a different matter entirely. Yet deceiving James, that feels profoundly wrong. I shut my eyes tightly. Mom, please just give me a few days. Another pause hung in the air, thick with unspoken words, before she finally let out a heavy sigh, as if the weight of the moment was too much to bear. Very well, but I must express my discontent. Thank you, I whispered, my voice barely escaping my lips. As I hung up the phone, a wave of guilt coiled tightly in my stomach, suffocating me with its weight. Just as I began to lose myself in thought, the boarding announcement crackled through the speakers, slicing through the silence like a knife. The moment had arrived. That night, James sat on the couch, the weight of Tessa's words swirling in his mind, each syllable echoing with an unsettling intensity. Locate her phone immediately. He had dismissed the notion before, but now the insidious doubt clawed at his mind, relentless and unforgiving. At last, he activated the phone tracking app they had established long ago for dire situations. He paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face, before finally clicking it open. The location was finally revealed. His breath hitched in his throat. She was nowhere near Florida. She was nowhere to be found at her mother's house. She found herself in the vibrant chaos of Miami Beach. His stomach twisted in knots as he fixed his gaze on the screen. She had deceived. Tessa's phone buzzed, shattering the stillness of midnight. With a heavy haze clouding her mind, she reluctantly responded. James? She deceived me? His voice was low and measured, yet beneath it, she sensed an undeniable tension simmering just below the surface. She's nowhere near her mom's. She finds herself in the vibrant chaos of Miami Beach. Tessa's spine stiffened, a sudden alertness coursing through him. Are you truly certain? I followed the signal of her phone. Tessa exhaled deeply, the weight of the moment pressing heavily upon him. James, what will you do now? He hesitated, silence hanging heavy in the air. When he finally spoke, his voice carried an unsettling calmness that sent shivers down the spine. I must uncover the truth. Tessa paused, uncertainty gripping him. James, please, whatever thoughts are swirling in your mind, resist the urge to act on them. You might find yourself trapped in a web of regret. He let out a sharp breath, tension hanging in the air. I am desperate for answers. After a heavy silence, he finally spoke. I'm booking a flight. Tessa's stomach nodded with unease. James, I must do this. He uttered those words with a chilling simplicity. Then silence engulfed the line. The warm breeze of Miami enveloped me as I emerged from the hotel lobby, my heart pounding with a mix of exhilaration and anticipation. The sun hung low in the sky, its golden rays bleeding into the horizon, igniting the ocean waves with a fiery glow that hinted at the impending darkness. Blake stood by the boardwalk, his casual white shirt and vibrant shorts contrasting sharply with the tension in the air, exuding an aura of effortless calm that only heightened the anticipation of our meeting. His smile stretched across his face, a flicker of something deeper igniting in his eyes as he caught sight of me. In that fleeting instant, every burden I carried dissolved into nothingness. Your demeanor feels brighter, more joyful. I released a breath, the weight of months of tension crashing down on me. I feel liberated, unshackled from the chains that once bound me. His smile was a flicker of mischief, a glint that hinted at secrets untold. Then let's forge an unforgettable week, one that will linger in our memories forever. I forced a smile, desperately shoving aside the relentless guilt that clawed at my insides. For once, I craved to seize the fleeting moment. Meanwhile, James emerged from the Miami airport, his jaw set tight, a storm of anger and fierce determination brewing within him. The last 24 hours had spiraled into chaos, frantically tracing Claire's every move, scrambling to secure a last-minute flight. And now, here he stood, in a city that felt foreign and charged with uncertainty. She had deceived him, and the burning question of why consumed him. As he slid into the cab, he dialed Tessa's number, a sense of urgency gripping him. "I've arrived." Tessa's voice trembled with an unsettling intensity. "James, do you truly believe this is the right choice?" "I don't have a choice," he whispered, his voice heavy with despair. A flicker of hope stirred within him, a desperate wish for a rational explanation, a nagging thought that perhaps he had misinterpreted the signs. Yet, beneath the surface, an undeniable truth lingered within him. "She's staying at the Royal Palms Hotel," he said, his gaze fixed on the window, the city blurring into a haze beyond the glass. "Tonight, I will uncover the truth." Back at the hotel, Blake and I stood on the balcony, the air thick with unspoken words and a palpable sense of anticipation. The city lay sprawling beneath us, a vast expanse filled with secrets and shadows. The wine in my glass twisted and turned beneath the flickering shadows, each swirl echoing the frantic rhythm of my racing heart. I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me. The stolen glances, the electric silences, the intensity in Blake's gaze, as if I were the sole woman in existence. I had convinced myself that this journey was solely about the vastness of space, about rediscovering who I truly was. Yet, deep down, I had been fully aware of my intentions all along. Blake's fingers brushed against my skin as he tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, the air thick with unspoken words and charged emotions. His touch stirred emotions I hadn't felt in a long time. "Claire," he whispered, his voice thick with an unsettling intensity, a hint of peril lurking beneath the surface. I remained right there, refusing to let go. I ought to have, yet I chose not to. Instead, I drew closer, the air thick with unspoken words. A thunderous knock on the hotel door fractured the stillness, sending a jolt of anticipation through the air. I stood paralyzed, Blake's brow furrowed, a storm brewing behind his eyes. "Are you waiting for someone to arrive?" I shook my head, my heart racing wildly. Another knock, this time filled with a desperate urgency. A suffocating dread seized my heart. With a heavy heart, I placed my glass down, each movement deliberate as I approached the door, the weight of uncertainty hanging in the air. My fingers quivered as I grasped the handle, a suffocating dread wrapping around me like a vice. I opened it, and there he was, James, standing before me. His eyes, heavy with betrayal, bore into mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. In that fleeting instant, time itself seemed to freeze. Silence enveloped us, heavy and suffocating. The air between us crackled with unuttered confessions, heavy with the weight of shattered vows. Blake stepped forward, his presence looming just behind me. "Claire, who is?" James's gaze shot toward him, a storm brewing in his eyes. "You." I turned back to Blake, his gaze shifting between James and me, a storm of realization brewing in his eyes. The silence loomed between us, heavy and oppressive. Then James let out a long, heavy breath, his head shaking in disbelief. It appears to be true. My throat felt parched, and my mind raced, desperately searching for words that eluded me. James, I can't. He interrupted me, his voice chillingly composed. Blake edged forward, the air thick with unspoken words. Listen, we need to have a serious conversation. Shall we converse? James's laughter was laced with bitterness, echoing in the silence like a haunting melody. I traveled across the distance, driven by the betrayal of my wife's deceit. And you believe it's time for a conversation? Blake paused, uncertainty gripping him. James spun around to face me, his expression a storm of unspoken words. Why, Claire? What have you done? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Tears seared my eyes. I desperately craved some distance. What lies beyond the stars? His voice trembled, a fragile whisper hanging in the air. This is not space. This is a deep betrayal. I felt the urge to confront him, to declare that he was mistaken, that I hadn't truly crossed the line just yet. Yet, deep down, we were acutely aware of the truth that loomed over us. The instant I uttered that lie, I knew I had crossed an irrevocable line, the moment of no return. The silence loomed, thick and suffocating. Then James's expression turned steely. Your decision has been made. He averted his gaze. A wave of panic crashed against my chest. James, I beg you. Yet he pressed on, undeterred. He felt the door slam shut behind him. And in an instant, he walked away, leaving behind a silence that echoed louder than any words. I stood there, as the very fabric of my existence crumbled into chaos. Blake's fingers brushed against my arm, sending a jolt of electricity through me. Claire, I withdrew, the distance between us heavy with unspoken words. I must have solitude. His eyes glimmered with pain, yet he managed a nod. I'll be right here waiting, just in case you need me. His voice was a mere whisper, barely cutting through the thick silence that enveloped us. My mind was a whirlwind of chaos. James had vanished, leaving an aching void in his absence, and I was consumed by the haunting uncertainty of whether I would ever see him again. The door slammed shut, and in that moment, everything I knew shattered into a million pieces. James had vanished, leaving an aching void in his absence. I stood paralyzed in the hotel suite, my heart pounding as the weight of reality crashed over me like a relentless tide. I had poured countless hours into rationalizing my decisions, convincing myself that I was not truly at fault. But now, confronted by the piercing gaze of James, filled with the weight of betrayal, I realized that I had made emotional decisions that changed the course of our relationship. Blake edged closer, his voice trembling with uncertainty. Claire? Are you really okay? I stepped back, clutching my arms tightly around myself, desperately trying to keep the fragments of my being from unraveling. I just don't know. He let out a shaky breath, his fingers tangling in his hair as uncertainty washed over him. Perhaps it's time for me to leave. I forced down the knot in my throat and gave a hesitant nod. I believe that is the most prudent choice. Blake paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face, as if wrestling with unspoken words. Then, with a sudden resolve, he snatched his jacket and strode toward the door. He glanced back at me one final time, a weighty silence hanging in the air. Claire, you are truly remarkable. I can't help but long for a different reality. Then he walked away, and I was left in the silence of my solitude, isolated, burdened by the weight of my regrets. Sleep eluded me that night, a haunting absence that gnawed at my very core. James's expression haunted me, the anguish in his eyes etched into my memory. The following morning, I hurriedly secured the earliest flight back home. The plane ride was excruciatingly tense. For years, I poured my heart into loving James, weaving a life together that felt both fragile and profound. In a single, reckless moment, I had obliterated it all. As I crossed the threshold into our home, an unsettling wave washed over me, a stark reminder that this place, once a sanctuary, now felt alien, as if I had been cast out from my own life. James's suitcase had vanished into thin air. Panic surged within me, constricting my throat. I dashed into the bedroom, my heart racing, desperately scanning for any trace of him, clinging to the hope that perhaps we could still have that conversation. Yet his clothes had vanished. His favorite watch, the one he always kept close, was nowhere to be found on the nightstand. A note lay ominously on the dresser, its presence heavy with unspoken words. With trembling hands, I reached for it, my heart racing in anticipation. Claire, I find myself at a loss for how to meet your gaze in this moment. I can't say for certain if I ever will. I require a moment to gather my thoughts. I'm begging you, just don't call me. James's tears clouded my sight, each drop heavy with unspoken sorrow. I pressed the note tightly against my heart, each breath tearing from my lungs in frantic bursts. He was gone, and the weight of that loss crushed me, leaving only the bitter taste of self-reproach. The following week dragged on, a relentless torment. I found myself checking my phone incessantly, each glance filled with a desperate hope for a message that never came. Silence, a void that echoes with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. I trudged through my workday, each task a hollow echo, my heart a distant memory, lost in the shadows of my mind. The house echoed with a haunting silence, a void left by James's absence that weighed heavily in the air. His laughter echoed in the silence, a warmth that wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, and the ritual of him making coffee each morning became a bittersweet symphony of ordinary moments tinged with longing. In my frantic quest for self-discovery, I tragically lost the one person who had steadfastly stood by my side through it all. One evening, as I sat on the couch, my gaze fixed on the untouched dinner that loomed ominously on the table, my phone buzzed, shattering the heavy silence. My heart raced at the sight of James's name. I stumbled over my words, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. James? A heavy, lingering silence. Then his voice emerged, distant and laced with caution. Could we possibly arrange a meeting? Tears brimmed at the edges of my eyes, threatening to spill over. Indeed, I'm begging you. We found ourselves at a quaint little cafe, a haunting reminder of the early days of our romance. Upon laying eyes on him, a sharp twist gripped my heart. He appeared utterly drained, his eyes heavy with unspoken pain. His lips remained a tight line, devoid of any trace of a smile. They didn't reach for me. He settled into the chair opposite me, his hands clasped tightly on the table, an air of unspoken tension hanging between us. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. James? I deeply regret what has happened. His jaw clenched, a storm brewing beneath the surface. Why, Claire? What have you done? I cast my gaze downward, the weight of guilt pressing heavily upon me. I find myself lost in uncertainty. A profound sense of disorientation enveloped me. I believed that distance would bring clarity, yet all I succeeded in doing was deepening the chaos. James released a slow, deliberate breath, the weight of the moment hanging heavily in the air. Did you truly love him? The question struck me with the force of a sudden blow. No, I breathed, my voice barely escaping my lips. It was never truly about that. I acted out of pure selfishness. He nodded, his expression shrouded in mystery. I believed we shared something profound. We did, I gasped, struggling for breath. I still care, but I understand the consequences of what happened. James averted his gaze, his grip on the coffee cup growing more intense. I'm not sure if I can ever trust you again. My chest throbbed with an unbearable weight. Is there truly any way we can mend this situation? A heavy silence lingers, stretching on endlessly. At last, he let out a heavy sigh. I require a moment to gather my thoughts. It lingered in the air, a hesitant pause that held the weight of uncertainty, neither a clear affirmation nor a definitive rejection. I nodded, embracing the weight of the reality I had forged. Very well. As James rose to depart, I barely breathed the words, I love you. He paused, a storm of doubt swirling within him, yet he pressed forward, refusing to retreat. And then he turned his back, a haunting silence enveloping me as I grappled with the chilling thought that I might have lost him for all eternity.